We'll try again.
Okay, we will try again. Now, everybody hopes that it is not true. But realistically, what are the chances that little Caylee Anthony, the Orlando, Florida 3-year-old, now 3-year-old, missing for more than 2 months, is still alive? Before we explore the possibility and get some surprising reaction from the cops, I think surprising even to Casey Anthony's attorney, Jose Baez, I want to begin by asking that question of Jose Baez, Casey's the mother's attorney. He joins me from outside his bailed-out client's home. Good to see you, Jose. So what do you think? Do you believe that Caylee Anthony, this child, is alive? And if you do you believe, as apparently the grandma does, Cindy Anthony does, that the child has been in some way kidnapped?
Well, the answer to your first question is absolutely. We do believe she's alive, and we most importantly believe that the police should be out there looking for her. And until they find her, until they find or give us proof otherwise, we're going to err on the side that she's alive, and we really do believe she's alive.
But would you, Jose, and you know I respect you as an attorney, would you allow your client to talk to the authorities, to tell the authorities really what went down, to help them in their quest that we all want to be successfully concluded?
Everything that, first of all, the police, if they want to come and have access to my client, I've already given them an open invitation, and this has been long-standing. And I'm willing to allow communication between police and my client so long as it's in the search for Caylee. But the problem is here is that we don't feel that there's a sincere effort that they're actually searching for Caylee. All they're doing seems to be prosecuting Casey, and that's not the way a missing child case should be laid out, okay? Yes, I can understand the suspicion. However, they still have a missing child, and there's no reason, and this sets a bad precedent for missing children to just, okay, once you focus in on what you call a person of interest, even though you don't have any evidence, so let's just call off the search and let's see what else happens. Let's see what can turn up at that point. That's not the way that things should be done. Absolutely not.
Now, Casey obviously is in the building in her parents' home behind you now. You spent 7 hours together on Friday. How are things going? Are you gleaning any information that would be helpful? Or are you, as some contend, concentrating on her defense on the child neglect charges?
No. Everything we're doing, it's towards the search of Caylee. What we're focusing in on is trying to backtrack and do things that might assist us in finding her or finding those responsible of having her. And passing that along to law enforcement.
Okay, what I want you to do, Jose, I want you to stand by, because I have law enforcement coming up on the other side of the commercial break. I think you'll be surprised by some of what the captain in the sheriff's department has to say, and maybe it's all rhetoric, maybe from both sides. I don't know, but there are. Can we run the investigation? Okay. All right. Before we do that, ladies and gentlemen, let me give you our summary of the possibilities of what has happened to this child.
So many individuals believe the baby's dead.
She's presumptively dead.
Sadly, you know, this is probably going to end up a homicide.
While most legal observers and many of you in the audience have concluded that little Caylee is probably dead, in public, at least, the Anthony family and their representatives remain steadfast that the toddler is alive and being held by a kidnapper.
Caylee was taken from Casey, and that's the direction that we need to focus on.
If you're watching and you have our granddaughter, bring her home to us.
But if the child is being held, who took her and why? Casey's parents have said they often babysat their granddaughter so that their daughter Casey, a mother since the age of 19, but in many ways still a kid herself, could party with her peers. But who exactly was she partying with? Some of the pictures of Casey having a blast at the Fusion nightclub that surfaced in the past few weeks show her hanging out with young men flashing gang signs. Were they just punks who thought they were cool, or were they real gangbangers? And we know now Casey's circle of friends and lovers included party promoter Tony Lazzaro, who dodged Craig's questions about what he knew and when he knew it. And recently we've learned from public documents that some of the party promoter posse also lived or lives at Sawgrass. the same sprawling complex that Casey frequented, the same complex where she claims to have dropped Caylee off with a babysitter. Here's attorney Jose Baez.
The corporation of the promoters at the Fusion nightclub, which of course Tony Lazaro is tied into, and so on and so forth. If you pull up their corporate records, the addresses that some of the officers belong to are at the Sawgrass Apartments. I mean, it's a phenomenal coincidence.
Coincidence? Clue? Or just a strand of truth in Casey's apparent web of lies? Like her story of Zenaida Gonzalez, the purported babysitter who Casey claims to have left her child with at Sawgrass, but who cops say never had anything to do with either Casey or Caylee Anthony. But there is a Zenaida Gonzalez, and she did look at an apartment at Sawgrass on the 17th of June, the day after Caylee went missing. So add that to the questions. How did Casey get Zenaida Gonzalez's name? Did Casey cross the wrong crowd? Were drugs involved? Did she owe someone money? Is it remotely possible that someone did indeed snatch Caylee as payback? Casey's arrest affidavit states the defendant said she'd seen movies and reports of missing people getting hurt if the police got involved. Her mother, Cindy, told Greta she believes her daughter.
She was on the floor crying, and I heard her words say that Caylee had been kidnapped. The first words out of my mouth is, "Why the heck didn't you tell us? Why didn't you report it?" And she said that she couldn't, that she was afraid for Caylee's life.
Judge Janine Pirro, your response, then Kimberly Guilfoyle's, and I'll go back to Jose and the cops.
Look, every fiber of my being as a prosecutor and a judge tells me that this baby was not kidnapped. It's almost like we're in a magic show. You know, now you see her, now you don't. You know, there's decomposing body, but no, there really isn't. If your child were missing, Geraldo, God forbid, and I would ask your viewers, if any of your children were missing, the one thing you'd be doing is you wouldn't be partying, sleeping around, drinking, and dancing at a club. What you would be doing is you would be sitting by the phone, waiting for a phone call with sunken eyes and not be in jail saying, "Why is everyone so concerned about my daughter and what's my boyfriend's number?"
Yeah, it just doesn't add up. And any bits of the forensic evidence that they have right now tend towards this poor young girl being deceased, no longer with us. No evidence right now whatsoever supports the kidnapping theory. Everything that this young woman has said has been debunked already, and that's the problem.
The sheriff's side of the story, then more from Jose Baez, attorney Baez, from Orlando, live right after this.